Todd, last night, when it came to the defenseman, I think it was, you were saying, I don't want to talk to you guys about it right now, I want to talk to the players about it first and share my thoughts. Now, can you maybe share some thoughts about the defenseman that you were impressed with in the series?
Well, I haven't. There was moments for each of them, good moments and bad moments, just like the rest of the players. But I haven't. You know what? It's 11 o'clock in the morning. After, if anybody in here thinks we've sat and met with players and discussed their impact and their level of play in the playoffs, we haven't done that. But each of our defensemen had positive and negative impacts throughout the playoffs. I thought some had better series last year than they did this year, and vice versa. But that's just my own opinion. We have a whole staff and a management team that has to share their thoughts on every player and each of the coaches and the way we play and how we went about it. And none of that has started yet. So, from that perspective, we should probably be doing this on Thursday, but we're not. So I apologize for not being able to give you any more.
Going into the summer, Todd, well, how much reflection and self-evaluation do you yourself do as you go over it into summers? And does that change at all, given where you guys are at now as an organization and you going into year 5 next year as opposed to when it was year 1 and 2 and
Yeah.
trying to rebuild?
That happens every year. I believe for every coach. If you're not doing that, then I don't think you're doing your job. So the buck stops here, and it gets divided out after that through our coaching staff and our auxiliary staff, which is growing, our development team, and then on out from there. So it's a must. It has to happen, and it has to start here. The timing and the spot on the line of evolution with an organization you have to look at, and you have to consider where we are, where we want to go, and where we've come from. We'll look at how we play, the types of systems, or I use the word structure, that we use in all areas, whether it's special teams or 5-on-5. We'll look at how we use players and combinations of players, how we distributed ice time. And it won't just be about Game 6 or 1 through 6. It'll be all 88 games that we played, the body of work. We'll look at the players and which players improve from year to year. Did any of them fall off? If they did, why? What impact did we have in that? So I think there's always there has to be a period of reflection and a self-evaluation. We'll also get evaluation from our management group. They'll tell us, and we communicate all the time, but they'll tell us what they saw and what they'd like to see improved or changed if there's anything there. But I think that the interesting part is the timeline question, because we've gone through 4 years now. We started out by tearing down. We went through a painful season. We began to build it back up. We're pushing now. Are we ready to win? Obviously, we're not yet. But we're pushing to that next phase. And the hardest thing in my mind is closing out that last gap of 5 to 10%. Because as we're doing everything we can to improve, the Edmonton Oilers are also doing the same thing, and they're already there. So we're playing catch-up still, but we have a really we have good pieces, we have good people, we have a good staff throughout the whole organization. There's a lot of stability, which is necessary, and we've just got to tinker around different areas to make sure it gets better.
You mentioned 4 seasons, Todd. Next season's your 5th year. That's the term of your contract. Is a goal of yours to get an extension?
You know what? I've coached a long time. I have 1 year left, and I'm really looking forward to that year. Whatever happens after that is well, some of it's in my control, but we'll see what happens there. It's nothing I've thought of. It's nothing I've approached. Yeah.
But if they approached you and said, said, we want to extend this, you would be saying yes, no?
Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed my time here and helping the team. I didn't take it, but helping the organization get to where it is now. And we have a big step to take next year, and the organization and whoever that might be has more steps to take as it goes on. I used the word last night, youthful playoff team. And I don't mean that by age, I just mean that in evolution, if we're talking about that line. We've been in the playoffs now back-to-back. The Seattle Kraken haven't, obviously, because they didn't even exist that much. But all the other teams have had good 6-7 year runs, 5-year runs at least, maybe with the odd miss where something doesn't go your way. But they've been able to retool their teams. We're at the entry level of that, so we have some runway ahead of us. That doesn't mean we get free passes to not win, but we have some runway ahead of us to continue to build the team and adjust and change some ingredients. So I'm looking forward to that part.
Todd, one of the players said that the team was more competitive this year in the playoffs than last year. Do you have that same feeling, and where do you feel that you grew from last year?
We were flat out a better team this year than last year. We were because of personnel, the players that we had available to us. We improved in a lot of areas. But to my point, so was Edmonton. They made some changes that that they could adapt their team to, and they're a little further along in that evolution. And we have to catch up. But we were a better team this year. Our opponents were also. And interestingly enough, I think each team, because we played those 21 games against each other in the last 2 years, I believe we made them better and they made us better, which is ironic, but they had to play a certain style to play against us and be a little more patient maybe than they were in the past. And for all of our power play our improvements and stuff, we spent a lot of time obviously looking at their power play, and you can steal a few things here and there, and our power play improved because of it.
Woodcroft talked last night about how difficult the Kings' defense is, and obviously defense can be a collective group of players, but along those lines, how important is it to get Gavrikov signed?
Well, since the day he arrived, he walked in the door, him and Korpisalo walked in the door, and they fit our group. There's always risk at acquiring players at the deadline where it doesn't work simply because of that. So when they walked in, their spirit and the way they carried themselves fit our group. So that was a home run right off the bat. And then his play, from the time that he put the equipment on all the way through, he adapted really quick to a different system, to new teammates. You've heard me talk about being in diapers. He was in diapers. He entered the league in Columbus. He hadn't been anywhere else. It was a huge change and lifestyle change for him. But he was very, very solid all the way through to the last minute last night. And that sounds like a player, a coach or a team, coaches or a team would like to have. But there's also the business aspect that he's entitled to and that the team has to look at. So, for all of these players that potentially could come back or not come back, there's only so much of the pie that can be divvied up. And we're rapidly becoming one of those teams that's eating up the pie quickly. So some tough decisions may have to be made, but I'm speaking specifically about Gavi and his impact on the team. And if I just listen to my own answer, that's the type of player you want.
Looking at Kopi and Drew, obviously they still shoulder a huge load, but as the team gets deeper and they get older, how would you like to kind of refine their role to maybe maximize the quality of the minutes they play and also the runway and the rest of their careers or their primes at least?
Yeah, they, in my opinion, they both had really good seasons. Again, you take all 88 games and exhibition, wherever we played, they had outstanding seasons. For Kopi to lead the team in scoring, I know that Fiala got hurt, but for him to lead the team in scoring again speaks volumes. Our intent was to cut his minutes back a little bit. We looked at different spots for him on the power play so it wasn't as taxing. He wasn't going up and down the ice, 2 or 3 times per power play to break out. So we tried to adjust some areas for him to try and maximize his play out. We'll have to look at that a little bit more. Drew, again, I thought he had an outstanding season too. There's ups and downs for every player, but statistically looking at how he produced, his offensive output, his defensive play was solid. And as we get deeper and stronger on our back end, I don't know what he plays now, 26 minutes a night. We'll have to look at managing him a little bit. That's probably a fight we'll have because he wants to play 26 minutes a night, and he's very capable of doing it. We have no problem with that, but we need to get good 80-some games out of him. So if it goes from 26 to 25, so be it. But we'll figure all of that out. But I thought they were both outstanding there. You could see what we missed last year from Drew in the locker room during the playoffs. Just verbally, what's coming out of his mouth and his intensity. We missed that last year. We had it this year, which was good. It was a new experience for our coaching staff and for a lot of those players because he wasn't there last year. But they both still play and will play very, very important roles on this team.
Todd, I know you said you haven't got a chance to talk with players individually, so it might be hard to look too far forward, but looking at Callio's season, he came in and started really strong and had the injury and maybe didn't get back up to speed in kind of like stretch in the playoffs. What are the expectations on him coming in next season? Where do you see him fitting in?
I think Arthur Kaliev can be an impactful NHL player. And not only can be, but we need him to be. And it's our job as coaching staff to get him there, development team, everybody else to get him there. And we'll do everything in our power to get him there. We need him there. And the other side of the coin is his participation in it, and I think he'd be very open to that.
Is this a big summer for him in terms of fleshing out his game?
Yeah, when I look at Arthur's year, he had a real good start. We put him up on the top line for, I think, 7 games straight to see if he could produce there. They weren't real good 7 games for our team, not just for Arthur. And then he got hurt. And Arthur is still a young player, not necessarily age-wise, but in his development physically, and first time he's ever dealt with an injury, so he had to overcome that 6 weeks out. Came back, and it was hard to get his footing again. And then playoffs roll around. He came out of the lineup, not because he was sick, but he stayed out of the lineup because he was sick. He didn't make the trip to, what you guys don't know is we had that flu bug or whatever you want to call it, go through our team a little bit, not unlike Boston, where we had some questionable guys for a game or two. And Arthur didn't play because he got scratched, but he also didn't play because he was sick.
Rob mentioned that this summer is more about shaping the team. It seems like we won't see additions like Fiala, Noarks, and that kind of thing. Is the biggest step that needs to happen this summer in the young players kind of supplementing guys like Kobe and Drew?
I'm always afraid to say that because it gives the older players or the more experienced players freedom and leeway. We can get Arthur and Coop and Q to graduate and really take a step forward. And that would be great, but if Deneau and, I'm just using names, Deneau and Arvidsson and whoever else give back a lot of their game, it doesn't matter. It's really important that everybody gets prepared and ready to go.
Todd, during the series, both coaches were a little tight with compliments, but now that it's over, can you talk about Jay's evolution from year to year? He seemed a lot more confident this season behind the bench.
Well, he should be. This isn't, when I think of Jay, all the years that we spent together, like we're the godparents of his girls. That's how close we are. And he was fully prepared and ready to coach last year. Been in the NHL since 05 with really good teams that have won Stanley Cup. So he's ready to coach, and he's doing an outstanding job. He also has a very good staff around him too. Dave Manson, and he makes a huge difference on the back end. And yeah, they're doing a good job. So they're in good hands.
Where's Q's future? Is it on the wing? Is it on center? And what can you and do in the offseason to unlock, better production from the goaltender?
Well, that big frame of his is naturally going to get stronger. Not by osmosis, he's going to have to work at it. And when I think of Quentin last year and Quentin this year, I see him on his feet a lot more. I see him in battles, being able to push off and not be picking himself up off the ice, and that's going to get even better. I saw him markedly improve in forecheck and breaking plays up and loosening pucks up for his teammates. I saw him get many more scoring chances this year than he had last year. So it would be different if he got to 10 or 12 goals this year. Remember, he started down below and then came and joined us, so he didn't have a full season. But if he got to 10 to 12, we wouldn't be talking about it as much as we have been over the last 2 to 3 weeks. He didn't get there, but he had the chances. So that tells me we got to work on some finishing, some confidence, some polish around the net, maybe a sense of timing. But I was really happy with his progress in so many other areas. He was able to have an impact on the game without scoring 10 or 12 goals. We had others that the only way they could have an impact was scoring a goal. So Q's worked on his backup game. We'll help him with his scoring game as he goes forward, and I think he's just going to keep getting better.
But positionally, is it left wing one? Is it three?
It's a forward.
Just a forward. So now
We'll see where it goes. Yep.
Todd, after game 6, you mentioned you thought the team needed to improve in some structure and system areas. Would you be able to go into any specifics where you...
I'm sorry, the first part?
After game 6, you mentioned that there were some system and structure things this team needed to improve on. Would you be able to go
Well, we
into
got
specific areas?
somebody has to ask me about our penalty kill. It has to get better. And just forget about this series. Just the year as a whole, we went up and down and went on a good push. But we have to improve penalty kill wise. So we've got to look at the whole package there: who we use, how we do it, how it impacts the goaltenders, where the shots, dangerous shots are coming from, how much is going through the seam. We have a summer project there, and so that for me is the biggest area of concern.
You brought in Jim Miller to help with the power play.
So-
Can you bring somebody in that would help you with that on your summer project?
It's in our room. It's in there. It is, and we can solve it.
As it relates to penalty kill and 5-on-5, do you want to see firmness added to the roster?
Firmness meaning.
Firmness, just experience, not running someone's head through the wall, but just mental, physical firmness, size, the way that they play in, physically too.
Stiffness.
Stiff, okay. Well, we had 104 points. And the type of roster that we had and the composition of it put us in a real good spot during the regular season. We pushed for the Pacific Division or the Central Division championship, right to the bitter end. Then comes the playoffs, and when you play the same team 21 times, you have to look at their composition and your own. But it's not as easy as just saying, yeah, we'd like to have that. I think I talked about the business part of it and the pie part. There's decisions that the organization has to make in regards to certain individuals, and you're always going to have 23 players. But you don't know what the pool of available players looks like to you. So it's easy to say, you know what, we could use a couple 6'8" defensemen. Teams aren't giving those guys away, and there's very few of them. So our job is to try and share our thoughts with management, but then to make what we have better. So if the exact same team shows up next year, we have to make them better and in that area.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Yep. Have a good summer.
Thank you, Todd.